you're part of my business. And it was 11 o'clock on the East Coast, but it was like, hey, are you committed to helping this gentleman? Because he reached out. And one of the things that I shared with David Upton earlier on in my career, identifying property, I told people my first year, I made 6 grand on my first deal. And it was actually split in two. I told David because it was another married couple that we put the money together to get our first location that we turned into a short-term rental. And that location made 50 grand. And after expenses, I think it was $6,000 that we made, 3,000 to the other family, 3,000. So this is a whole year's worth of reality. And then that individual committed to quit. I told David Upton they committed to quit. What that means, they said, hey, I like the idea, but this is not producing what I thought it was going to produce. And then I told David, because we split the deal, I not only had to give him his 3 grand profit, I had to pay him out $10,000 in change to kind of buy his situation out based on the original investment of furniture and all these little things. My wife was tight. Because I was like, yo, give him the money. Like, I'm not really up on quitters. I don't believe in quitting. And she was very upset at me a little bit because she was like, well, why? I asked him, I said, hey, why don't you give us some time? He's like, no, I need my money. That's the language that he started speaking. That was the frequency that he came on. And I literally went into my account and I gave him the 10 grand at the time. Wasn't the easiest decision, but I said, I'm not going to quit. And I told David Upton, what I did after that is I went to work. 22 properties later. When you don't quit, you don't you won't miss the blessing. See what it might look like in the very beginning, it does seem bleak. It does say, "Oh wow, I put XYZ in and I worked hard and I answered all of the questions of the guests. I answered all the reservations. I thought I was going to do Y." And then you look out around you and the person says, "Well, that's great, but I'm going to quit." And the family did. I couldn't hold it against them. I told David what would really happen after that was that a gentleman reached out to me that I've known for a very long time. He said, hey, could you go cover a couple closings for me? And I said, yeah, no problem. He paid me $200 a pop for every closing because that's how I learned title work. And then he said, could you do some more? I said, sure. And then he started sending me on so many closings. That's how I funded some of my next properties outside of figuring out the system of how it works. And then once you understand how something works, because the pain, like the gentleman just said, is the actual lesson. The pain actually says to you, do you understand? Are you going to go through with this or are you going to quit now? Because I'm actually just teaching you a lesson so upfront that says, hey, are you going to willingly commit to the whole idea of getting to the visions of dreams of what you're going to accomplish? I'm going to share something with you guys that I told Mr. Samad, give me a mic for the first 20 minutes or so of this call because I realized something. I tell people I'm big in reviewing my business. I'm big on understanding where I stand. I'm big on kind of like really just understanding what the next step is. So for me, this July will be 24 months since I've been with our infinite company. And what I've learned is I remember the first time I thought about getting my PhD. And I understood one thing. They said the PhD is just the process of you going through the projects and the information and all the details that require, but there's no grade particularly tied to the idea of obtaining the PhD. It's just end up writing this wonderful, beautiful paper that says you went through all the work. And so I told people what I really said to myself was that in business, you can get your own PhD. In business, you have to go through the classes of information. You got to go through the details. You got to go through the subject matter situations so that you can write the paper. The paper is the business that you decide to build. And I said, well, why do it in theory? Let's do it in real life. So at the end of the paper, I have cash flow. I have exactly what I'm looking to accomplish. And so I'm going to share something with you guys today. If you guys bear with me, because I thought this was critical. I thought this was critical because as I spoke to different organizational members, I've had different conversations. We from early morning calls to late nights to groups to individual situations. I begin to understand the psychology of what we were talking about. And what I'm trying to share with you guys, that's what's really happening, is that this is your gateway to understanding how you can end up making millions. If you understand the financial services business, if you understand what we do here on this platform, the first time I heard Mr. Samad talk about the three markets that we work, sometimes when you hear that first information, it may not materialize. If you guys write this down, please, and you may have heard it before, but I'm very intentional about what I'm sharing with you guys this morning. What you want to understand is that you're trying to build a sustainable business, and we actually have all the factors here on this platform. But if you decide to quit, you're going to miss. If you show up as a transactionalist, you're going to miss. You will make some money as a transactionalist. That's not a doubt. Anybody who makes a transaction happen will be just fine. But if you learn how to build a business, business is a compounding interest factor. It is not an immediate transaction. Immediate transaction is a way to receive money. And then if you don't know how to do that again, or if you can't rinse and repeat that transaction, you don't actually have a business. You have a check. And when I studied this the last 2 years, I realized that what we were really doing is that we're really in the people business. If you understand that we're in the philosophy of people first, and that what we're really doing is financial education, you'll be fine, because financial education wants to be received by everybody right now. I was at an event last night, and because I took a people first philosophy, saying, hey, you're not a transaction. Who are you? How do I understand what you're about? What is possible? People will start to give you what you don't understand that you were expected to receive, because you're treating them as people first. Miss Marlena, Mr. David, Miss Tammy, this is who I see, Mr. Samad. If you take the people first philosophy, because now I can understand why he speaks the language that he just spoke on the Spark. He said, Hans, that's great, but let me see how I can help you first. Yes, we can do Roth IRAs. Yes, we can do an index universal life. Yes, we can do a IRA. Yes, we can do a term life insurance, whole life policy. But what are you here, Hans? And he says, if you understand that we're an educational platform first, then that will cure any people problem you're going to ever have. I already know what I'm going to say in this presentation, because I wrote this 10 times this week already in my head, so I don't even need slides, but I'm only doing the slides for you. If you guys begin to understand that the reason why he talks about the wealth formula, there's only 3 conversations you need to learn here. You got to become an educator, you got to become a solver, and you got to be an extender of opportunity. Hey, David Upton, pleasure to meet you. Let me tell you what we do on this platform. We are an educational platform first. We help solve problems. And by the way, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'd like to extend you an opportunity to join our business. Because if you learn how to educate people, if you learn how to solve problems financially, not only will you get a better understanding, but all of the resources that you'll ever want to look for will be in your hand, Miss Tammy. So if you understand that, change the thinking by simplifying money, building financial literacy, and empowering people to make better decisions. The lady that I met last night said, Hans, I can empower you on how to do this. I said, yeah, how can we meet? She was solving a problem. The first thing she tried to do was educate me on what she did. And then she said, I can solve a problem for you with what I understand, and I can extend the opportunity to actually help you. And then it was like crystallization of the last 2 years. That if I become an educator, if I become a solver of problems and I extend opportunity, then you're going to be okay. Because the model here, Mr. Upton, I only happen to see you on my screen, so I'm not picking on you. Please don't believe that. Is if you understand that your natural market is your place that you just learn how to build some confidence and that's your foundation. See, when Mr. Samad says to you guys, let's start a grand opening, he's really not telling you to pick the pockets of your friends and family. He's just saying, hey, this is your practice field. They're the easiest ones to deal with sometimes. And even if they say no to you, they're offering you more practice on how to become better because they said, I just thought you were doing this. Hans, I thought you were doing real estate last week. Since when did you become a financial solver? And what they do to me is they say, great, I got to get my game up to understand what I got to do so that by the time I get to this niche market where there's a massive reason to do business. You know what I found out in the niche market? What we're really solving in the educational space is that there's a bunch of people who have pensions that are not going to have enough money. But if you educate them on that pension solution and teach them all the solutions and extend them the opportunity because they don't actually have enough money sometimes to solve their financial problems, you'll be fine. And then agency becomes automatic. See, I thought you guys might think I'm going to train on something else. I'm going to train on the same thing. We naturally help the people around us. Then we go into small business because there's a Secure Act 2.0 that all those business owners have a problem. So when you walk into their house of business, I can solve a problem. I'm at the daycare yesterday that we're talking to. I said to the daycare director, do you guys have benefits here for the team? And she said, no. I said, well, I could possibly solve that problem the next time that I meet with your director, because I have an appointment with her already from the event last night that we did. I'd like to review the options, but we'll make sure that we answer your question first. The next time we meet, I'm going to discover what your concerns for, and then, yes, I can do the supplemental stuff, but let me answer your questions first. Because if I get too transactional, I'm going to miss the whole entire boat. See, in the niche markets that we have is military problems. That TSP, that's exciting, but it may not work if they're in that little freedom, little 1% program. They're not growing their money, and you can educate them on that. If they don't know that they have access to a pension that's not going to pay them enough, then yes, you can put an index universal life after you help them understand their situation financially. And then if you can't solve that, you can say, guess what, teacher? Guess what, military personnel? Guess what, business owner? What if I showed you another way to actually make more money? Could we actually have a conversation? I don't know anybody who's actually going to say no to that. And if you understand the psychology of what I'm sharing with you guys today, is that each stage builds you. That's why you got to stay committed to the business, because you think that transaction is going to solve your problem. It's not. It'll help. It'll definitely pay a bill. It'll definitely cover some expenses. So I'm not telling you guys not to make money. That's not what I'm saying. Stay with me. But every phase of the business is built to build you. Because in the last 24 months, I now understand the psychology of what I'm building. I had to go through every market piece. I had to meet a David Upton and say, did you want to be part of my business? I had to walk in schools to understand the psychology that within a school, I will meet the principal and she will give me permission to access the lunchroom. Once she accesses the lunchroom, I now have an opportunity to talk to 20, 30, 40, 50 people, if not maybe 100 people, because I do a staff meeting. But the only way I figured it out was I had to do the grand opening first, because I had to take the no's and the yeses and convert those no's into my educational understanding. I had to take those yeses to fund my business to get it going, basically. So when we shortcut the process, I'm not saying you, I'm talking about Hans. If you get hurt in what I say, it's okay because I'm actually doing you a favor. I want everybody to understand that the only language that we spin here is the ability to win, but it is a process. It's a process that says, if you learn how to speak to your friends that will say no to you, who says, I don't know why you're doing this. I don't know. Why don't you go do this instead? Thanks. But what I'm trying to do is build a business because when I build it, are you going to be okay with me funding your college vision? Are you going to be okay with me making sure that when we buy the second home, you're not going to complain? Are you going to be okay? Because I told David Upton, I've been through it. Before the version of this guy showed up, there was a couple question marks when I showed up in the room. There was a couple looks that says, are you even going to get to these 22 plus properties? What were you even thinking? They weren't being rude. They were just building my confidence. The pain of the information that they gave me says, you're not talking to a loser. You're talking to a winner. Go ahead and quit other couple if you want to. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to ask more questions. I'm going to show up at the networking events. I'm going to talk to the next real estate broker. I'm going to talk to the individual. So all I did when I got here was like, you know what, Hans, you rinse and repeat the same formula. There is no reason why I should not have a great relationship with my leader. It's because if he's gone through the natural market, if he's positioned himself in the niche market, if he's positioned in the agency market, then what am I talking about? Because this is a long-term compounding business. But do you know what's great about compounding growth? Compounding growth is the best payout. I want you guys to begin to look at people as a gateway to hundreds of people. Because here's the 3 products that you guys get a chance to offer every day. Matter of fact, you don't sell insurance. Matter of fact, you don't sell a Roth IRA. Matter of fact, you don't even know what a 403B is, because if you understand that I could educate you and I could potentially solve your problem, because a 403B don't fit for everybody, an index universal don't fit, a term don't fit for everybody. So I got to understand your situation so I can put you in the right car. If you cannot afford a Bentley, why are you even thinking about it? You might need a term to kind of bridge you into the Bentley. So if you don't become a specialist, a solution driver, and if you don't extend opportunity, because you know what I found out in the last 90 days? Everybody in America is going through something. Everybody's negotiating. Everybody's trying to figure out another way to make more money. Everybody out is trying to figure out how to solve their financial problems. I've talked to enough people in the last 2 years that we need to get to the youngest person first as much as we can, because I've talked to enough 65-year-olds in my conversation base to understand that there's a lot of people not prepared. Now, here's why it's important for you, though. You get a chance to get prepared. You get a chance to become educated. You get a chance to solve your problem. You get a chance to create an opportunity for your family. See, 3 years from now, when I get to Africa, it's not because I didn't do the work. It's exactly because I did the work. It's not because I'm going to figure out how to fund it from somewhere else and lie to myself. I'm not telling you a lie. I'm talking to myself. If I give you some information of value, then you'll understand why. Because what you're going to begin to understand is that, listen, I want you guys to become educated first. Tonight, when you get home, ask your leader for a copy of this wealth formula and study it. Fight to be the next presenter on Tuesday night. Fight to understand the language of what we teach here, because I could do it in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Did you know why? Not because I'm that good. I have never sold an annuity until I got to this platform. I didn't know what a 403B was. I had no idea how to sell an index universal life, Audra. Thank God you showed up. I didn't know what an index universal life. I told Mr. Samad nobody could explain it to me. And so what you don't know, you don't do. But what you do know, you do better. What you do begin to understand, you'll do better, because if you speak the language of financial strategies, if you speak the language of tax strategy, if you speak the language of planning, now you can empower clients. Do you know why I'm able to tell you guys this? For the last 2 years, I've been such a student that I understand why things are happening now. I'm no longer pushing to be asked to be somewhere. I'm being invited everywhere. Because when people see you show up, what they say is, I can potentially trust this guy. I can potentially give him a shot. I can potentially tell him what he does not know, because the secret information is sitting within your client organization as you get a chance to serve, not sell. When you serve people, what they automatically have to do is serve you too. You're speaking a language of extension, not a language of limitation. See, when I show up in the room last night, guys, if you guys could understand what I saw, the psychology of what I saw, it's so hard. Matter of fact, when I start to smell something that don't make sense, and when I begin to see people speaking a certain language, I now understand why I'm starting to itch. Not because you're a bad person. There's a misunderstanding that either I got to help you, bring you into the right room, or bring you to the right conversation so that we can position your mind towards the possibilities. The person that I spoke to last night that we did the presentation, this is somebody that we met 6 months ago that says, hey, I was a teacher. I've opened up my daycare location. Could you guys come back and have a conversation with the 30 plus parents that were in the room? And everybody signed that form yesterday. And then when we did the presentation, there was this gentleman that showed up. He says, can I speak to you, young man? Older gentleman, nice and fit. Man, got a little white beard going on. Looked like he got a couple classic pieces of money in his pocket. And he says, I said, yes, sir. How can I help you? I said, yes, sir. Not yo, bro, not this. I said, yes, sir. How can I help you? He says, well, listen, I'd like to invite you and your other gentlemen here to come speak at some other locations, because we run 10, 20 different boards where financial literacy is needed. I don't know that guy. I don't. But you get invited when you show up in the room because you become an educator first. I didn't talk about a 403B yesterday. I didn't talk about an IUL. I didn't even talk about life insurance. I told them that there's a 5 to 7 times wealth gap in America. And what our organization does is we educate people on how to make the right decisions about how money works. Do you know where I got that language from? I got that language from an event that we went to in DC, and I got that language from this gentleman, Mr. Suni Samad, that says, hey, I'm going to teach you how money works. And do you know how long we were up there? For 5 minutes. Everybody signed a form, yes, the staff, the people in the room. Hey, I need to have a conversation with you for 5 minutes. It doesn't mean everybody's going to write business with me, but it gave me 30 more people to talk to. Because once I understood that my product was education and that I am an individual that tailors financial solutions, and I diagnose and prescribe you your best situation. If you begin to understand that you are creating opportunity, that means as I really understand how I'm going to solve, what we do is we solve an income problem here, we solve growth problems, and we solve protection problem. We use life insurance to protect. We will use an index strategy to grow your money. We will teach you how to leverage income strategies here, but you are not a life insurance salesman. Because I saw sometimes when I walk in certain conversations, the transactionalist and the version of what people's face show up when you show up as a transactor. Do you know what transactions do? They limit the ability for you to move the ball forward. It limits the gentleman who's doesn't know who you are and says, he don't speak my language. I can't invite him to the boardroom that I control. Because if I spoke solutions only, if I spoke that language, you don't get invited. Maybe you get a small invitation, but it might be a limited room. Last piece of the puzzle, guys, so I can let you go. Don't look at people as just a full-timer. Don't look at them as a part-timer. Don't look at them as an agent. Matter of fact, just find out why they're here. You don't want to do this full-time? Sure. Let me show you how you can refer me some business. Hey, you don't want to do this full-time? I can show you how to do this part-time. Now, you got to put some work in it. The other day, I talked to somebody, said you might be part-time, but you got to put some work in it. You want to do the full blast like a Sunni Samad? I'm going to show you how to build agency, and I'm going to show you how to earn equity. Stop speaking your language. I'm only talking about myself. I used to speak what I wanted. What people want is mentorship, coaching, understanding, the ability to see the future. And if the future right now is a referral partner, let them be a referral partner. If the future says I only can see part-time, perfect example. Don't even ask Kim Howard. She saw the business as a $500 a month conversation. And then when she showed up in the room enough time, she says, let me do agency and equity ownership now. People are not your paycheck. They're not. You're your paycheck. See, the bigger you become in your mind, when you solve you will make as much money as you choose to. Because people like people who can solve problems. They love people who care for them. They love people who can help them. And they will pay you an insane amount of money to show up. That's how you find that 403B. That's how you find that $147,000 rollover. That's how you find that $74,000 rollover. That's how you find that $400 client. I understood something, Mr. Samad. I got this text from this young lady. And when you read the books, let me tell you guys how powerful this platform is. When you read the books like the Four Agreement, you take nothing personal. You become the best person. There is nobody that has a problem with you. There's this lady that I thought was ready to go, and she said, yes, I got it. I got a $500 contribution, and then she just disappeared. And I didn't take it personal. I was like, okay, I followed up. I did my 3-point follow-up. Last night, she reached and said, Hans, I'm ready. She said, I'm sorry. My dad was sick, and he was in the hospital. That's why I didn't show up to the appointment. People got real things going on, guys. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because the psychology that we need to have is I go get more names and phone numbers than ever before. Not because I'm better than you. It's because I know people got things going on. There's things happening. It changes. I look at people in the millions because if you take it personal and you don't read the book, you will take it personal. The book is the developer. The experience of the no is the developer. The experience of the yes is the developer. The experience of showing up to an event and only one person in the room is the developer. Do not cancel that event because there's only one person in the room. Speak to them as if there were 1,000 people in the room. Mr. Samad said, hey, let's go down to Tennessee because we're going to talk to Stephen Taylor because there's 1,000 people in his room. And then a week later, he shows up with 12 new associates or 10 plus new associates. You don't know who David Upton is. I don't know who Miss Marlena is, but I better respect her. I don't know. But you know why you don't know sometimes? It's because you think everybody else is going to do the business for you. And the first person who has to do the business is you. See, for the last 2 years, it's like, Hans, it's your fault. Hans, you show up. You walk into that room, you actually have that conversation. You show up when there's only two people that fill out the lead card, because if you don't show up the next time, you're going to miss the 40 people who filled out the lead card. And you say, oh, it doesn't work. Because you see two people, but there's two people who said, please, please, can you help me? And you say the business doesn't work? Did you hear the other lady on the call? She said she made 48 phone calls and one person. What if that one person was that $1 million rollover that somebody just recently did? But because you thought it didn't work, now don't take this personal. You thought it didn't work, you missed it. And the reason why I'm telling you guys this is because authentically, I'm telling people I believe that the formula is understanding wealth. A broken mind will do broken things. A wealthy mind will do wealthy things. Because the first language that they taught me, say, hey, Hans, did you know that through your W-2 you create income? Do you know why the light bill wasn't paid 30 years ago? It's because I didn't understand what to do with my income. And as soon as I understood to do with my profits, I built 22 plus locations. If I understand what to do with my profits here, I drive to Tennessee. I drive to North Carolina. I show up at the convention because you don't know. You don't know when an Anthony Rubio says, yo, I love the work you're doing. You don't know when a Mr. Simon says, hey, let me introduce you to the CEO. And the CEO pulls you over, I see you. Keep doing the work. Those things matter to your mental mind of fortitude. Because you're never going to get to wealth if you don't understand these first two languages first. What we're really doing on this platform, guys, is we're building distribution. See, I speak the language so healthy now. I be telling people, I said, listen, I'm in the distribution business. I need to have multiple staff members at different locations throughout the United States so that we can help more people with what? Not a life insurance policy, with financial literacy. That's what I tell people. I said, we're financial educators and we help school districts, locations, small business understand the financial education, and we provide the solutions and we teach people about wealth. So when I talk to that business owner, I say, hey, how much did you make last year? He says, well, okay, good. I said, what if I could show you a way to create more income? Hey, W-2 person, what if I could teach you an opportunity that would get you to wealth? Because if you understand that language, then you're going to be fine. Let me tell you guys this. This is the vision that you got to have. I'm not telling you don't go make money. That's not what I said. Everybody's got to make money in America. If you don't make money, you're going to have a problem. But if you're building a business, you got to have this vision. You got to have long-term vision. Because you're going to miss all the other opportunities. I saw it the other day. I can't explain it to you. I've seen the short-term thinking show up in a room and it creates limitation. And guess what? When it did, I said, do me a favor, the person that experienced, I said, do you mind if I take your card? I said, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. She said, sure. I called the person last night to say, hey, Hans, I want to invite you to another event that we were hosting. I'm glad you called me. Somebody right next to me had the same card and it was like, I don't want to talk to you because you're not buying anything. That's what I saw. And I was like, okay, but you got to have long-term vision. The reason why is because if you stop looking at people as a transaction, premium rollovers today, commission can limit tomorrow's opportunity. I'm not telling you not to close. That's not what I said. But we're in a business, guys. 1099 means that you're in a business. This is not where there's a guarantee. You know what I tell my wife sometimes? She's like, why are you wearing that? She's like, why are you wearing that shoe? I said, nobody pays me. I'm not being rude to her. I'm just saying, listen, I don't care how you feel about my shoes. I'm not worried about what you think I'm wearing. You don't pay me. It's nothing rude. It's just saying, listen, I'm the one that's been creating my paycheck. So what if you don't feel comfortable with the shoes that I'm wearing today? You don't know what I have in my account. That's your problem. Now, I'm not saying you to show up at events looking like junkie, but I was just headed outside the door and she's looking at me like, why are you wearing? I was like, nobody pays me. I get the right to say that because I had to go through the process of learning how to create my own paycheck. And if you're going to build a business, you're going to have to go through the process of learning how to create your own paycheck. Bobby can't pay it to you. John can't pay it to you. Susan can't pay it to you. You pay it to you. See, but when you care about Susan, John, and Bobby well enough, they'll pay you more than you anticipate because they got to have a long-term vision. And I close with this idea, and I'm going to pass the call back to you guys. Every person can become more. A client turns into a referral source. They become a community connector. A recruit teaches you another business partner into a future leader. One person can become all three of these over the time. I don't know David Upton. I met him through LinkedIn. And I'm glad that I met you, David, because I see the vision for you. I see the vision of wealth. I see the understanding that there are strong possibilities in you, Miss Tammy, that I can't control, but I got to share the vision with you because people are gateways. A teacher who was at a school district went to go open up a business and remembered us and said, can you come back? Now that I'm a business owner, she now has an opportunity to say, yes, I have a business. I need a supplemental option. Glad you helped me back then, but you had to remember them. There was something that I talked about with some folks yesterday, and it really got my attention. Somebody said to us, hey, well, the reason why they want to talk to a physical therapist because physical therapists can talk to more physical therapists. If you are a previous business owner, I can talk business owner language. Find the places that you want to serve and go fight for it. You don't got to go to teacher market if you don't want to, but go serve first. If you know pastors, go talk to more pastors. If you know realtors, go talk to more realtors. If you know other leaders, go talk to other leaders. Whatever you've done, I had a great conversation with David Upton. He's like, I understand the hospitality business. I'm like, let's get it. Because you know the language of those people. If you know how to speak Spanish, go speak to some Spanish folks. If you know how to speak Creole, go spoke to some Creole folks. Because they're going to understand how you communicate the power of wealth better there. I just happen to be around educators all my life, so I went to go speak to a bunch of educators. I love that language. I know them. I've met them before. I've been around them. I've been around them for 20 years. So you think it's successful because I'm just that great? No, I just happen to be around the community people so long that when I got into the room and had the wealth language, I was good. This is where you guys go build confidence. This is where you guys go increase your confidence in the niche markets. And then you got to build people because you'll never be free if it's just you. You'll make a lot of money if it's just you, but you're going to be doing it for a long time. Hopefully this was helpful. I'm going to pass the call back to the other leaders. I told them I had this in my heart. I'm going to figure this business one way or the other. I'm going to work with the group. I'm going to go out and serve. I will make millions of dollars doing it. We're just inviting you to the table. I'm going to listen to a Audra because she might have something to give. I'm going to listen to a David Upton because he has something to give. I'm going to listen to a Suni Samad. They got something to give. Mr. Jones, I'm all ears, brother. You got something to say too, and I want to hear it. Ms. Beck, there's something you have to say that I should hear. Ms. Betty Hall, I heard you. Ms. Gabriella, I know you got it. Just because I didn't say your name, don't take it personal. I'm just looking at all the list of the people that I've talked to and had the conversation. I'm saying we want it for all of you guys. But what we will not do, I promise you I won't do this. I will help you. I will figure it out for you, but I will not wait for you. That's a fair deal. like Mr. Anthony Rubio says. See, because what a leader has to do is they got to move forward because they're no longer called a leader, they're called a follower at that point, or they're called a lagger. I'm not a lagger, I'm a leader. And if you're uncomfortable with that, that's something in you that has to grow to change to become the same person because that's how you're going to win. Mrs. Samad, I'm a winner. I can't help it. The call is yours, sir.
Great job, brother. Great job.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let's go,
Listen, I took a
Hans.
plethora of notes, but appreciate everything that you're saying. I'm listening to the presentation, Mr. Augustine, and it's just providing a lot of confirmation. But the key thing, it's funny you mentioned this. The key thing that you said that stood out to me, I was running yesterday, and I was listening to some personal development stuff. And the truth of the matter is, you guys, is that success is really predicated on how willing you are to become better. And that's just it. A lot of people want a better sword. They want a better external value system. But it's not until we check the boxes on the internal value systems that anything external that could represent value is going to work for you. So when you hear Hans Augustine say things like, he said it, you got to build people. But in order to build people, you have to first build yourself. Nobody's going to get behind a parked car, is the language I say when I'm talking to men, right? Because the language that we use when I'm talking to men is a little different when there's women in the room, right? I speak a very direct and honest language because I believe that the language of business is honest. And, people are the best investment you'll ever make. I wholeheartedly believe that. And I also believe that that's why I and some of you connect with this opportunity, because somewhere innately you believe that. You just didn't maybe connect the boxes in previous places, right? And which is what makes this a very, very great place to be and a great opportunity. You talked about every phase of the business builds you. I always used to say you can't get blessed with the 5-bedroom house until you learn how to take care of the 2-bedroom apartment. Sometimes we want what we're not ready for. But during that phase is when the best work is being done. So write this down. The business is either working for you or it's working on you. And you have to know the difference. The lean seasons, when things are just kind of like not really clicking for you, that's when the real work is being done. I always say this business is not subjected to a transaction. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking that the business is only in the confines of when I'm sitting across from a client. That's not true. This business is being done in the trenches when you're trying to figure out, should I be on a call? Should I be at the gym? Should I be with my kids? Should I be with my family? Right? Should I be reading a book right now? Should I be doing a training? Like, that's when the business is really being done because you are your business. Then the fruit of who you're becoming shows up in the transaction. Right? But the beautiful thing about a business like this is you are also the true reward here. See, you get you back as an entrepreneur. You get a version of you that you would not otherwise get had you not done the hard stuff. So in the words of Jim Rohn, he says, my mentor, Mr. Schoaf, he said, hey, make a goal to become a millionaire, not for the money, but because of the person you get to become along the journey. Right? And that's what marginalizes us and makes us so different than because people come here and say, oh my God, I love it here. So different. But why? Why is that? Because we take the people approach. It's not the product approach. I was with another company before. They said, here's a script. Okay. Here are the carriers you have access to. Go sell people on life insurance. And it just didn't align with me. And most of you guys are here because you felt the same exact way, right? It's like I don't want to sell people on life insurance. I want to help people, I want to serve people, but I don't want to be this transactional person that's looking to close out a bunch of business to fatten my pockets. And then the dangerous part of that is you create something called a dependency. You know, if you're relying on your own pen solely, it becomes a dependency. I got a friend by the name of Kyle Watson. Okay, he's with FFL. Great friend of mine. He's a Hall of Famer there, David. He's made over $400,000 a year, basically for the past 8 years on that platform. But if you ask him, is he happy? No. If you ask him if it's worth it, no. He feels trapped. He said, I don't wish this on my worst enemy. What he's saying is he's locked in a basement all day now because he has to make $400,000 a year. If he does not make $400,000 a year, life as he knows it is gone. It's done. Because he built it on his pen only. He never invested in himself as a person or other people. And why people hype that up, I'm telling you, be careful what you pray for. All that glitters ain't gold. I can sell water to a whale. I promise. I've been selling stuff since I was knee high to a grasshopper. But you will never hear me talk about selling. I will sell you, though, to you, because that's the greatest sale any of us could ever make. And once you're sold on you, the car is built, the destination's inevitable. Isn't that beautiful? That's beautiful, right? You can sell a franchise or you can sell you can sell the French fries of the franchise. Hans talked about distribution, right? It's just a different mindset. You sell the French fries of the franchise. I want to sell the franchise at 50% rather than the French fries at 100. You know why? Because when you do that, there's longevity and you get your time back. And at the end of the day, everybody's in a fight for their time. That is the ultimate goal. In fact, Kimberly Williams talked about it yesterday, this morning. She said, you use the analogy. I give you $1 million right now, but the caveat is you end your life tomorrow. Would you take the $1 million? No, even though tomorrow ain't promised. Innately, we all want time, but we want time the way we want to spend it, right? And so, you know, I really love the call, Hans. I love the tone of the call. Um, I'll say this, you guys. There's no such thing as failure. There's only a such thing as quitters. The only way to fail is to quit. But you have to trust your journey, right? In my journey, your journey, Hans's journey, everybody's journey is going to be different, but your journey is tailored to who you are and who you were prior to your experience here. So there's going to be milestones for David Upton that don't exist for Brittany Carolina. There are going to be hurdles for Fola that don't exist for Jules. There's going to be hurdles for Betty Hall that don't exist for Gabriella. But you got to trust your journey. My hurdles are my hurdles based on the prayers I made in the dark and the tears that I cried in the shower. Right? I can't use Kyrie's path as a determining factor for me, but I could use who he become or he became because of it. I'll open up the call. Anybody else want to share?
I have to add this piece where Betty Hall said something very beautiful the other day that made it very crystal for me also. And it's one of the reasons why I say you guys are also important because she said, no, I get it. I'm new at this. I get it. I'm new at this. Let me stay with my leader to ensure there's a long-term future path for me in this business. Hans's milestones are not my milestones. I told David Upton, I said, I've been in the game for 28 years, so don't get confused that I showed up here as a business director. That's 28 years of leverage that showed up on the platform. And so the reason why I share that with people is because I told people I know how to put 75 cents in a tank, and that's all I had at the time. I've had to go ask my mother for money before when I was younger in my household situation. So don't get confused. The reason why you have to develop, you're creating a future for yourself that's long-standing. And that's what we want for you because I understand that if you become a transactionalist, it's a forever program. And you never get a chance to get off the farm. But what we're teaching you is how do you put a bunch of other potential people to farm the land that you're developing? Now you can make more cabbage. Now you can make more carrots. Now you can make, because if it's just you, you're never going to get exactly what you're looking for. And what we speak here, or what I'm going to continue to speak, and I'll pass it off, is wealth. When I understood what I was distributing was wealth, I was like, oh, that's a wonderful program. And when I understood that I was developing and providing opportunity, that's a wonderful program. And I understood that I was solving problems. It may not pay me at this moment, but it'll pay me in the future. You didn't buy from me today. I'm glad I saw you. Gabriella said something beautiful the other day. We were helping. I'm almost guaranteed, Miss Gabriella, that person's going to come back that once I finish this deal, could you help me secure this money? Because I remember how you sat down with me and walked me through the process. You didn't have any commission breath. You didn't have anything else other than help. And I promise you, that'll come to you 100-fold because he'll be like, you got to talk to this person. They taught me the ways that I could protect the millions of dollars that I have access to, and I no longer want to play the opportunity game. I got to take care of my mom, guys. I just wanted to come today and really just tell you guys, if you see what's about to happen, I see it. I see it. I know the vision. I've been telling you guys from day one. I understand what's about to happen, and I'm seeing it played out live in front of me. And when I see people like, hey, let me help you with this, let me help you with that. Did you speak to this person? I've had multiple referrals this week to the point where I'm like, okay, I get it, God. And what I wanted this month was so different from what I got, but I got the best gift ever. He's like, you know how this business works. That's what exactly he said. I understand. You now understand how this business works. You could do this 10 times over if you wanted to. Go build the people, go build the business, go take care of your family and solve problems and become the educator that you've always envisioned to be. And that way, everything else would be taken care of. When I read the book the other day, says it was flowing with milk and honey. Multiplication and increase is the only language that adds the highest value. Division has no value. Separation has no value. So that means when you go cut off your leader, what you're doing is you're decreasing the potential chance for you to win. When you go get inside a room and you guys go talk, and I'm not saying somebody did, but you talking about this, that, or the other than the main thing, you just cut yourself off from multiplication and increase. Or you limit the time opportunity, or you put the business on pause. And I've seen that over the last 24 months, and it's one, and sometimes I giggle because I'm like, whoo, glad I missed that one. Because guess what, guys? I have a relationship with everybody. Because I'm like a secret box. You could tell me something that ain't going anywhere but my gut. But you know what it gives me is it's an understanding that like, wow, what if this person did do the full thing? What if they did show up 6 months from now? What if they did stay and they didn't quit? What if they did follow through? And I'm like, ooh, glad I missed that one. I can't judge them. That's not my job. But I'd be like, ooh, sometimes I see people make some move. And even me, that's why you guys hear me say, no problem. Let me call this gentleman, call Mrs. Samad and check myself. Oh, you guys think it's like a weakness? Ooh, I wish you guys understood it ain't a weakness. Because a leader without a leader is a problem. A mentor without a mentor is a problem. See, what you guys want to understand is that the guy who mentored me when I was about 23 years old, he said, you could do better. He said, you're not doing right by your wife. He said, you could do better. Sitting in the basement is not going to help you. Ignoring it as if you're going to not pay the price today is going to cost you more in the future. It's like a credit card that you keep pushing off. You don't make the payment. Then it says it goes into this default. And then it shows up one day and it shows up in your checking account and says, you never paid me. I came to collect. Have you guys ever been through that? You don't make the car payment. They will take the car and they will compound it. And you know when they come take the car? They come and take the car when you need it the most. When you got to go pick up that son and you got to show up at graduation. That's when they come and take the car. It's as if the universe is telling you, well, if you had just made that payment, you'd be okay. I know you got to get to your son's graduation, but you ain't getting there because you got to figure out how to fix this problem. If you don't fix the problem of your business today, it will cost you more in the future. I don't know if it's this business. I don't know what business it will be for you, but see, it doesn't matter if you see the reason why I tell people I won't leave the platform is because it don't matter what other business, because if you quit here, you're going to quit there too. So when I hear people start to say like, well, you know what? 30 days ago you came in, you were high as the moon, and then like 30 days later, because you got one little spare tire, all of a sudden the car doesn't work. No, it said put another tire on the car and drive it. It didn't tell you that the car wasn't working. I'm too passionate for this. I'm just trying to tell you guys that the only language we speak is winning. That's it. I didn't grow up in a weak household. I grew up in a household of winners. And that's all my kids are going to be, winners, because they just said, like, that's what dad speaks. He speaks that language. That's the language for the household. And so if I'm going to be here, you think I'm going to speak less than for you? No, it's not possible. Because what fun is it to show up in Africa and nobody can come? The other day, Mr. Saman said he's coming. I said, yeah, you know what? I'm glad you said that. I don't have to be the only one there enjoying it, my family. Why? It wasn't built that way. Just wasn't built that way. I'm just telling you guys, I promise you, I don't know how to explain it to you. I knew from day one that this was it. I understood that the version of what we're about to create in this industry will be different because nobody is doing this. You think if you understand the position that we're in this company, see, don't mistake it. It's just, oh, there's only 20 people on this call. Actually, right now in my mind, there's 2,000. I can't see any of you guys' panels. When I speak, I don't see any of you guys. What I see is 10,000 plus. Until I get there, then I can change my mind and I'll bring it up. See, I put 10,000 plus for a reason. It's going to happen. It's just going to happen. And we just want to make sure you guys make it to the other side. Because you'll be a little bit more upset at me if I didn't say something to you, if I didn't encourage you, if I didn't want to help you. Because you'd be like, well, he just kept it all by himself. See, whether you help, they'll talk about you. Whether you don't help, they'll talk about you. So I'm just going to tell you the truth. Because I'm not worried about how you feel. What I am worried about is how you feel if I didn't say something and you could have made it. See, you'll celebrate me when you get to the other side. You can hate me today if you choose to. That's completely fine. We still love you. That's the principles of God. And you know what? Mr. Saman said something earlier today. We no longer apologizing for winning. The apologies are over. We're not apologizing because we want to help you. We're not going to apologize because we believe that you should walk into a school. We're not going to apologize because you got to do a grand opening. We're not going to apologize to teach you how to make referrals. We're not going to apologize because somebody says, I can show you how to do this better if you take this education. That's not the apology that we should have. The apology should be when your child shows up and says, Mr. Hans, why didn't you help Miss Gabriella do better? And I got to answer that young child by saying, I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to answer her call. I just wanted to be selfish. I just wanted me only to be there. It's not possible. You want leadership? This is what leadership looks like. You want winning culture? This is what winning looks like. And sometimes it's not going to be me. It might be Gabriella saying, hey, let me teach you something, Mr. Hunt. And I'm all ears. She taught me a couple things over the phone calls that we had. She said, this is what I did. I said, oh, say less. I'm going to add that into the piece of the puzzle. This is Gabrielle. Looks like you wanted the mic. I see you there. I'm going to pass it to you.
No, I'm just excited. This is very powerful. I wrote down here, we must build people, but first build yourself because, and I'm gonna cry. Because I'm seeing now the fruits of building myself up, and I'm building myself up through you guys. So I just really, really appreciate you. This weekend we have a full schedule on Saturday of appointments, and it's only been able to come to fruition because of following the system of serving people first, educating them, bringing. Yesterday we spent time with a young lady from the retreat where I went to present at, and she needed a lot of our help. And the focus was, okay, what is she trying to? It was one sentence that I have here written up. What do you intend to get out from today's appointment? When I start with that, then I know that I want to listen and I want to pay attention. And that's something that you guys have taught me. And I have it here on my board. So I make sure I reference that every time to remind me that I'm not there to complete a transaction. I'm not there to complete a transaction. I am there to serve them. What is the intention with that meeting? Recently I closed another a term insurance for a husband because just going through the process. We came in, teacher appointment over a month ago, had our first initial appointment where we're serving them and listening to their goals, objectives, helping them understand their pension, bringing value to them, reflecting on, what is important to them, which led to our second appointment, which led to, okay, let's start a 403B. It started with retirement and securing them, right? But then she realized I need insurance. And then we did the process of insurance. She got the rating came back a little different. So I approached it. I said, look, although it's going to cost a little more, we have other options. You don't have to commit to this cost. We can reevaluate, run some new illustrations, and look at a different face amount. So she was going back and forth. No, I really know that I need, based on the DIME method, it was like over 2 million that she needs, right? She goes, no, I need $1 million. I need to make sure that I have this amount. But her husband wasn't in the conversation. So then she had approached me and said to me, you know what, now that I think about it, maybe I should just keep my group insurance. I said, I want you to do what's best for you, what you feel is important to you. These are my goals and objectives. Well, not my goals and objectives, but based on our conversation. This is truly what your group insurance can offer, and this is what you need. So she took the time to take the information in and reached out to some of her aunts who affirmed what I had shared with her. So she came back and said, you know what, I need this. I know that I do. I want to move forward. And I also want to cover my husband. So let's move forward. And that led to a third appointment. But everything that you have taught me has allowed me to step away from this old way of that was what I'm trying to say is step away from that old way of thinking that was that was looking at people as, try to close business on the first appointment, close and close and close them on the first appointment. But that's not what we're about. We're here to serve and educate. Just like yesterday when we had this appointment with this young lady, we asked that question, we listened to her situation, we got to understand her. Our homework is simply, hey, let's help you walk through creating a budget that can help you get through the next 2 months, 3 months until we move to the next step, right? She needs help. She needs help with income, and there's opportunity here, but she wasn't in the mental state just yet. So I left her with some homework, break down your budget. I gave her a full budget sheet. And I feel like she just left even more empowered. She left our appointment empowered, and I felt even more empowered because I know that it's going to lead to a greater blessing. So, just thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you, Miss Gabriella.
Awesome.
I don't know if there was somebody else that wanted to add something before. It looks like somebody unmuted. Well, I'm gonna let you guys go. You guys have a great Friday. We only believe in the concept of winning here. And like I said, Miss Gabriella, you guys can see she's growing. Miss Betty, Mr. Jones, all of you guys, Miss Tammy, everybody that's part of this organization, we do it on purpose to see you guys win. So you guys have an excellent weekend. We believe in the idea of wealth. Wealth is your mindset, it's your pockets, it's your family. So you guys go have a great weekend. Continued success on some of the appointments that you guys have today. And we'll see you guys at our next event. You guys have an excellent weekend. And thank you, Miss Gabriella, for helping us close the call.
Thank you.
All right. Have an excellent day, guys. Excellent.
Thank you, everyone.